Voces Latinas, 1610 AM. A drink of water with Joyce Aldrich. Refresh your mind.
Welcome to this evening's edition of A Drink of Water. My name is Joyce Aldrich, and it's 4 degrees here at 8 o'clock at CHHA 1610 AM. And this evening I'm going to have someone coming in via telephone from London, Ontario. His name is Professor Salim Mansur, and he's a political science prof at the University of Western Ontario. He's written a lot of books and articles, and he's an eloquent speaker, invited to many conferences and special presentations, and his focus is on international relations and comparative politics, with a special interest, of course, in South Asia and the Middle East. And we're going to be talking tonight about the Global Compact for Migration and a few other topics. Anyway, we're going to start off, though, with shaking the blues away, because it's kind of lousy weather out there. Why don't we get Professor Mansur on the line? How about you listen to this nice, happy music? This is Monica Chapman with Shaking the Blues Away. Enjoy. Oh, that sort of shook off the blues with Monica Chapman as well, and all this rainy weather we're having. We should have snow right now. Right now I have Professor Salim Mansur online with me. Can you hear me okay, Salim?
Hi, good evening, and happy New Year.
It's great to have you on. You know, I invited you to come on this evening because, you know, I love your insights because, of course, you know, being an associate political science professor at the University of Western Ontario, with your immense experience and everything you've done politically, and I really want your opinion on two things, actually, because since I talked to you about the Global Compact for Migration and wanted you to have input on that, I also want you to have some input on Elections Canada has accepted, well, not really accepted, but it has reserved the spot for the Islamic Party of Ontario and also the Islamic Party of Canada. And I had gone online and I was reading your address, your 2012 address before the House of Commons Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration. And I read that and I thought, oh, well, that was in 2012. Now we're here in 2019. So I'm going to let you roll on all of this because I know you have a lot to say about this.
Yeah,
that's I know it's a lot to think about because we're looking at the UN Global, you know, and because, well, I'll tell you what really stood out in the address. You were saying that really our citizenship and immigration deserves a debate among Canadians on the matter of lowering the amounts of immigrants coming to Canada, and to be able to think about, you know, who we're going to bring in and how we're going to do it, not forever, but, you know, just to slow things down. And with the UN Compact for Migration, it was just put right through. Canadians weren't asked, and of course now the other end of things. So there, we'll start with that.
Well, I was going to say it is quite interesting, and it's also quite ironical that you and I are talking this evening at this hour, 8 o'clock in the evening, and in some ways the world is waiting, almost breathless, for President Trump to go on air at 9 o'clock to talk about the very issue that you're talking about, or you want me to talk about, is legal immigration and illegal migration. You know, migration, illegal, people trying to pour into the country, in the case of the United States, from Central and South America in its southern border, and there is a shutdown taking place. It's almost now getting into the third week.
It's unprecedented, actually. This has never happened before, right?
That's right. So this issue he's going to be addressing about the shutdown, about the wall that he wants to see completed and built across the southern border of the United States, and the Democratic Party that has taken control of the House being opposed to it. And so this is a huge issue that is now bubbling right to the surface, a critical point. and a debate is taking place in America. It's a debate taking place in Europe. The question is, why is it not in Canada? This is the number one issue. In more ways than we can put down on paper or on a speech and a lecture. The question of immigration, migration, how it affects our economy, how it affects our security, how it affects our labor force, what it does to, our health expenditure, our education expenditure, on and on and on. Everything, in a sense, is tied up.
Well, how can we absorb all of it if it's too, because we've got to, we're supposed to be bringing 1.3 million migrants, immigrants, and refugees by 2020. This is a very ambitious, and okay, if it works, great, but how are we going to do this? We're having problems now, And I would like to bring in people who are going to help build our country and our economy and bring the rich cultures and weave it into our tapestry. But my goodness, it doesn't seem to be, that's not what's happening in the world. It's not working somehow. Am I wrong?
That's a whole different issue, whether it's working or not working. The question that you raised by pointing out to me that you had read my presentation to the Parliamentary Committee on Citizenship and Immigration in 2012. I was invited to be an expert witness, and I spoke at the committee hearing. And now it is, the clock has been ticking. We are 7 years since I spoke in the Parliament in Ottawa. And basically what I pointed out was, why is it that we Canadians in our Parliament and our representatives, that we elect, haven't had, for whatever way you want to describe it, the integrity, the honesty with the public who elects them, the courage to face the issues and talk about it. We need to have that discussion. I mean, we are the taxpayers. We want to know what sort of a program, a policy that our Parliament, our government, our Minister of Immigration, our Prime Minister, what is it that they want? I mean, they haven't discussed it with us, and
I'm not sure if they know what they want.
Making a decision.
I don't know if they know what they want. I think there's a confusion there too, because they want to move on the issue so quickly. This global compact came about over a year.
I beg to differ with you, Joyce. I don't want you to, interrupt you, but the way you are saying it, no, that's not true.
No?
That's not true at all.
No.
If you let me complete my thought.
I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
That our parliamentarians want to discuss this thing, don't have the courage to discuss this thing. They simply want to impose their decision upon the country without a discussion, without a consensus, this matter should go into an election. Now, this is what is happening. They have in this present time, it is the Liberal Party, it is the party of Justin Trudeau, they are the majority in the country. They have a plan, and they have a plan long time in the making that they are now imposing upon the rest of the country without having any discussion or taking the matter to the public in a referendum or in an election. So what are they imposing upon us? They're imposing upon us, which is what Justin Trudeau did. He signed the UN Global Compact on migration by going to Marrakesh, Morocco. So when you, Joyce, say they don't know what they want, that is totally incorrect.
Well, maybe.
You have to pause and ask yourself what is happening. They have a plan. They have a plan.
I'll tell you why.
They're imposing it upon us.
Well, I'll tell you why I said that, because it came up so darn fast. All of a sudden, it sort of appeared in August.
That's
and it was
the issue that they came up darn fast. They brought it up darn fast.
Yeah.
It's all deliberate. So there is no time for discussion with the public. There is no time for people to raise issues in the Parliament. The opposition hasn't had any time to examine the issues. That's why it has come up so quickly. But when you start examining the issue, I suppose that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
If you have the questions that you have prepared for it, or if you have taken a time to look into what is the UN Global Compact.
I read all 35 pages. I read it all and looked at it over and over. It's just,
Yeah, so it is 35 pages. It's a document that has been long time in preparation by the United Nations, and our government, like many other governments in Europe, Britain, France, Germany, have signed on to it, whereas there are also many other governments in Europe, in North America, the United States, in the Middle East, Israel, Japan, Poland, Austria, Australia. They have refused to sign it. Right. So why is there this difference of opinion? And that is the thing that the Canadian public hasn't been told about. The media haven't been discussing it. No. And, you know, whatever little time we have, we can do it right now.
Well, we're just going to have to go to a very short break. I want to come back to this, and I do agree. Yes, I sort of jumped on that because I like to think that the government doesn't know what they're doing, but they do. They really do. And we'll be back right after this short break, and we'll discuss more. Yes, thank you.
You are listening to Radio Voces Latinas, 1610 AM. A drink of water.
I'm here with Professor Salim Mansur, and we're clearing up some misconceptions I've had, and also about the global compact for migration, and also I was also impressed by what you had to say in your address to the House of Commons Standing Committee about liberal democracy versus multiculturalism. So I don't know if that's going to be part of your answer.
Well, the UN Global Compact, Joyce, is part of a larger UN agenda to which our government has signed on to, which is the UN Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. That is the big agenda of the United Nations, 2030, Agenda 2030, of which Global Compact is a part, just as the Paris Accord on climate change is a part, just as the question of free speech, that is about banning or any discussion on Islam, critical discussion of Islam is also a part. So there are many different dimensions to Agenda 2030.
Okay.
The Global Compact is about the countries of the North, the advanced Western democracies of the North or the West, United States, Canada, European countries, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. These countries of the North, or northern countries, Western democracies, advanced countries, they are being mandated by the UN to open the door and accept the mass migration from the global South. It began during the Middle Eastern War, or what came to be known as the Arab Spring or Arab Uprising, 2011, 2012, that went on to becoming a mass movement of people across the Middle East and North Africa that the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, then invited to come on over, and that has created a huge mess in Europe. And that migration continues, that migration from the Middle East, from North Africa, from Africa itself. So this is the UN agenda that it has to be the responsibility of the governments of the West to accommodate this mass unfettered migration. And the policy has been spelled out in that 35 pages of document to which our government has signed. The UN says that the migrants have rights, and those rights have to be respected and fulfilled. The obligation to fulfill those rights are upon the governments of the northern countries, like Canada, like Sweden, like England, etc. And we have to provide for those rights, that we have to accept them, and we have to then accommodate them through our means to provide for them what is their right. Now, all of this is simply the beginning of what is at the heart of the program, that is global governance. That is the UN and its sister agencies like the World Bank, the IMF, and other agencies are together going to lay down the policy from Geneva or New York. and then the rest of the countries will have to adopt those policies and work with those policies, just as it's happening with climate change and carbon tax. Similarly, with migration. So the bottom line is, it is global government at the expense of the national government, and the right of the national government, that is the government of Canada, to say no or yes to this agenda that is being imposed upon Canada by the United Nations. In the case of Canada, we have willingly agreed to it. And so we have opened up our country, we have opened up our borders to that globalist agenda of one planet, one borderless world. The implications are huge.
Yes, they are. And they say it's non-binding, but it sure is.
Well, all these agreements are claimed to be non-binding. And so it is non-binding to the point when the individual government, individual state signs on the dotted line willingly, then it becomes binding on that government. You know, it is only, if I don't sign a document with you, which is non-binding, until I don't sign it. But once I sign it, then it becomes a binding document. It becomes a contract. So these documents are rhetorically non-binding, but when the government has signed it, the Canadian government has signed it, the Canadian government has now become bound to that document, to those policies, until that time, some future government revokes that decision.
Yes, it's supposed to be revocable with, but
so
how long will that last, though?
Let's not get diverted by, you raised the issue by non-binding.
Yes.
So let's not get diverted by it. We have bound ourselves to that decision of the United Nations, just as we bound ourselves to the decision of carbon taxing according to the Paris Treaty. It is Doug Ford's government in Ontario said no to carbon tax. But the people in Ontario had to elect a government to say that. If it had been the Liberal government of Kathleen Wynne, we were fully, bound by that agreement that Justin Trudeau and his federal Liberals have imposed upon the rest of Canada. That's the issue that is shaping the policy domestically of Canada, whether it is about pipelines, whether it is about oil in Alberta, etc., etc. We are basically not following the wishes of our own people. We are following the wishes of the United Nations and its policy. Okay? So it raises the question, where is our sovereignty? Where is our parliament? Who speaks for us? That is, who speaks for the Canadian? If Justin Trudeau says Canada has no core identity and Canada is a post-national state, what does that mean? That means Canada has no value of its own. Canada is a post-national state. That means Canada is an open, borderless country, which is exactly what the German Chancellor Angela Merkel has said recently, that it is time for nation-states to give up their sovereignty to the United Nations, to the European Union.
And like you said, to the end of basically a one-world.
It's not the end, it is the imposition of one world.
Yeah.
One world blueprint that has been in the imagination of people on the left, the progressivists, the Marxists, the one world people. This is what it is on the one hand, and what you're witnessing in Canada, it has not happened. Slowly it is beginning. People are waking up to the reality, but you're witnessing the resistance to this in the United States with the election of President Trump, in Britain with Brexit that happened in June, the referendum on whether Britain should stay in the European Union or get out of the European Union, and the people in Britain voted in 2016 to get out of the European Union. You're watching it right now as you and I speak, what is happening in France. There's an uprising taking place in France that has shaken the government of France. The government of France, of Emmanuel Macron, is doing exactly what the government of Canada is doing under Justin Trudeau. And the people have woken up and risen up and saying no. They're saying no, and there's a mighty upheaval taking place. The same thing is happening in Germany, in Greece, in Hungary, in Poland, etc. So I see the people are waking up and resisting. The question is whether the political elite, the leaders, are going to listen to the people and change their ways and change their thinking, or they're going to keep on insisting that they are right and the rest of the people are, as Hillary Clinton said, deplorable.
The
so
deplorables, yeah.
If you question the elite, if you question their judgment, then you are deplorable. Well, in America, the deplorable elected Trump, and in England or Britain, the deplorable voted for leaving the European Union. The question is, where are we in Canada? We haven't had a serious debate on this matter.
We haven't been allowed.
We haven't had a serious debate because most of the public do not know the details. You know, I just barely talked about it. But it is in the detail. The devil is always in the detail. And the detail is that, you know, we have to pay, we have to accommodate, we have to provide for this huge movement of people from the global south, that is in Asia, in Africa, in the Middle East, and South America, headed to the north. And what we are just witnessing is tip of the iceberg, because, Joy, there is a far bigger migration over the horizon.
You know,
from Africa.
Can we just, I hear you because we've had a lot coming in already through our borders on the south. May I just go to break very quickly? We need to continue this conversation just after break. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We'll right back. We'll be right after this.
You are listening to CHHA 1610 AM, Radio Voces Latinas, Canada's first ethnic and community radio station, owned and operated by San Lorenzo Latin American Community Center. Central studios are located at 22 Wenderley Drive in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Postal code is M6B2N9. Telephone number is 416-782-2953.
Listening to Radio Voces Latinas, 1610 AM, a drink of water.
You just tuned in. I'm here with Professor Salim Mansur. We're talking about the UN Global Compact for migration and what that means to us as Canadians and the people of the world, and how we need to wake up to that. And I guess this is really going to be a huge issue for the upcoming federal election, for sure. We've got to talk to our MPs about this. We've got to question.
Right, you're absolutely right, and I imagine it should be. And it will be if the media is responsive and leads the discussion, opens the discussion. But you see what has happened is just before Justin Trudeau signed this UN Global Compact by going to Marrakesh, Morocco, he paid out almost $600 million, $595 million to be exact. He paid out that money to the media and bought out the media, because that's right. That's also part of the UN agenda. That is to make the media compatible and docile to the policies of the United Nations or of the globalist agenda. And if the media is going to question that, then the media is going against the United Nations standard and would then be open to the allegation that the media is xenophobic, the media is Islamophobic, the media is racist and bigoted. So as a matter of fact, Justin Trudeau and his Liberal government has become the people who pay the money to the piper. You know the old saying, the man who pays the piper calls the tune.
That's right.
So that is exactly what has happened. It is a way to close down the media from discussing these highly sensitive and volatile issues, because as more and more people get to know what is happening, as is you're witnessing in France and in Britain and so on, the people will oppose this agenda. I am holding in my hand the current opinion poll done by the Pew Research Center.
Okay.
This is a worldwide poll done. Basically, worldwide means European countries mostly. And the figures were staggering. In Greece, for instance, more than 82% of the people are against the UN Global Compact, and Hungary 72%, in Italy 71%, in Germany 58%, and so on and so forth. So you can see the average of the list of countries is that 51% of the population are against it, and this 51% average of being against it is just the beginning. It's just the beginning as people are waking up to what is happening.
Yeah.
You know?
So it was just signed just a couple of weeks ago, you know?
That's right. Signed only a couple of weeks ago, and within those couple of weeks you can see the massive unrest taking place in France.
Yeah.
You see? And breaking out, you know, in violence, because the government has reacted with force, and so the people have reacted with counterforce.
Well, exactly. And if a parent tells a child, do this, and the child says, why? You say, because I said so. It's exactly how we're being treated, like a parent to a child. Like we don't have a say, we don't have as long as you live under my roof, you follow my rules. And this is how I feel. We haven't got a decision. We haven't been asked.
That's right.
Maybe we would agree to a lot of things and just ask us.
Right. So take the case of Israel, for instance, a small country with a relatively small population compared to its neighboring countries.
Oh, yeah.
And if it signs this global compact, there will be no Israel left.
Oh, no.
You see,
the borders would just close in.
Yeah. So this is the challenge we are faced with right now. That is the globalist agenda that says, you've got to do this, you've got to abide by this rule, you've got to follow this treaty, etc., etc. And the elite who basically have bought into this, in Canada the elite is our liberal politicians. It's not all the politicians, but liberal politicians, most definitely people on the left,
Sure.
the liberal, the NDP, the academic elite in Canada, that is people in the universities, in Monk Center, for instance, is attached to the University of Toronto. The people at Monk Center, the Global Center for Study of International Politics, they are proposing that Canada should raise its population to 100 million, you know. Nobody has discussed this with Canadians, what it means, but that is the proposition coming from the Monk Center. So there you have it, the elite, academic elite, the media elite. You don't get this discussion on the CBC, for instance, or the Globe and Mail or the Toronto Star. They're all bought into this argument.
No, no, they have.
It is about climate change, whether it is about global migration, etc., etc., you know, and our government, that is a liberal government, is pursuing this agenda of global governance at the expense of the nation state.
And you made a point before the break that also Africa was a place that we had to consider as well, because people from Africa are going into like Italy, Greece, and there's an influx there, and also over our border at Roxton Road.
Well, the deeper question, the more important question to ask is, why is this happening in terms of this mass movement of people, and it is going to accelerate as we talked about Africa. It's a continent, it's one of the poorest continents in the world, the poorest continent. Most of the countries are in a state of disrepair, if not broken down completely. There have been famines and wars and genocide in Africa. But despite all of that, Africa is having a population explosion. The best estimates are that by 2050, the African population will have doubled Africa is right now around about 1.5 billion people, and it will double to anywhere between 2.5 and 3 billion people. Now, Africa cannot feed itself now. No. Africa cannot look after its population now. And so a population twice the present size in a matter of some 20, 25 years will have a population that is a population of a military age, that is between teenagers and 30, that is the right middle bulk of the population, the most virile population. Right. And what are they going to do? They're going to march north. They're going to march north. They're going to head towards North Africa, across the Mediterranean into Europe. So the United Nations is saying we have to globally distribute this population as part of UN Agenda 2030 to provide for sustainable development. The huge problem is that the United Nations that claims to have a policy for development, it is the same policy that has created in the very first place this problem. It is a United Nations failure, a massive, colossal failure over the past half century, if not more. The world, that is the northern countries, United States, Canada, Japan, Germany, etc., in the past half century have already contributed almost $3 trillion for developmental assistance. And the result is, instead of having development in these parts of the world, we are having global migration. So you've got to stop and think and ask yourself,
how is that working?
Why are we doing this, you know? What is the meaning? I mean, there's an old saying that when you do the same thing over and over and over again,
and it doesn't work,
and it gets the same result, then what does it mean? It means fanaticism. And that's what the UN is engaged in, is doing the same thing over and over and over again, and getting the same result, that is failure in development, and now resulting in mass migration. And then the UN is turning around and saying, and our government has bought into that argument, saying that the global north has a responsibility, and the global north must accommodate it. The global north must engage in redistribution of population, redistribution of resources, redistribution of wealth to solve a global problem that the UN itself in the first place has created.
This is shocking. And you know, I had understood a lot of what this is, but for anyone who's listening right now, you must be picking the jaw up off the floor, because this is a very, what do we do? We have to vote in a government that's going to change this somehow, close our borders before it's too late. I don't know. I mean, we closed. I know you mentioned it in your House of Commons Standing Committee address that during the Cold War we shut down the borders to the Soviet bloc countries for a time until that cooled down or warmed up, because it was a Cold War. But you know what I mean? We're bringing people in. We should slow it down and find out how we can do this in a logical way, and that's going to help them and help us.
Right, exactly. And we need to have this discussion. We need to have as wide a discussion as possible, so that the people can say which way they want the country to go. This country doesn't belong to Mr. Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, you know. So we have to have that discussion. On the one hand, the government is suffocating our industry, particularly our natural resource industry. Yeah. You know, so we are suffocating, we're destroying, we're putting a cap on the very industry that can give us the revenue to meet the challenges that this government wants to face by opening the door to global migration. So on the one hand, they're suffocating us. On the other hand, they're opening the door, and where are they going to get the revenue from?
Meat tax and carbon tax, apparently. I don't know.
Well, that's
God help us.
That's killing the economy, right? I mean, just look. I mean, anybody driving or living in an urban center like Toronto, which is the largest urban center in Canada, and you just walk the street and look up at the sign on your gas station. With in less than 6 months, with the election of Ford at Queen's Park, you have a difference in the price of gas. You are saving right now more than 30 cents for every liter of gas. With Kathleen Wynne, you were paying close to $1.20 for a liter of gas. Right now in London, where I live, it is about 85 cents. You know, so what is the difference between 85 cents and $1.20? That is the difference of taxation for climate change and for all the other things. Even at 85 cents, there is a lot of tax in there.
Sure there are, but at least a person can fill up the gas tank for a little less now, a few dollars less.
Exactly. So here is a situation that the government is making decisions that are completely contradictory to the requirements, to meet our requirements in terms of revenue, in terms of expenditure. We are already running huge deficits. The finance minister has said that, forget it, by 2040, there will be no balancing the budget. And when 2040 arrives, if it is a liberal government, they will say, forget it. There will be no balancing the budget till 2080.
And this is for our future.
We are running deficit after deficit after deficit, which means our dollar is going down the tube compared to the American dollar. That means our living expenses are going up. People on fixed income are barely being able to survive a decent life.
That's for sure.
And then Justin Trudeau has signed this deal to say, welcome. Anybody who lands in Toronto Airport or Montreal Airport or wherever
crosses the border,
refugee status.
Yeah, that's the thing. And what about, we gotta go to the last break. Are you okay to stay on just to the end? It's not long. But we're almost there.
I've always stayed with you, but if you want me to stay another 5-10 minutes.
I would love you to stay forever. We could talk for 3 hours, but let's just, I'll be right back.
I have another 9 o'clock engagement, but go ahead.
Okay, really fast. We're right after this break.
CHHA 1610 AM. You are listening to Radio Voces Latinas, 1610 AM. A drink of water.
Okay, well, we're back with Salim Mansur. I guess make some closing remarks, Salim, because, I know you got something at 9, so I do thank you for hanging in, with me.
No problem. Go ahead, Joyce.
No, I'm just saying, final thoughts, because, you are what you call an unhyphenated Canadian. And that's what we want here. We want people who are able to integrate into the Canadian system, keep their culture, add to our society, and us learn from them. We learn, they learn from us, and we build a beautiful society like we've had all these years. And boom, like you said, the last 50 years, possibly there have been changes from liberal democracy to multiculturalism. Maybe this multiculturalism hasn't quite worked as they would have liked. So, and now we're facing this UN Compact for global migration. And, of course, when you have people coming in, everyone wants their own political party. So now we have, maybe, the influx of Islamic Party of Canada or Ontario. We don't know. They've just got their names in, with Elections Canada, whether that's going to go through or not, who knows? Come to Canada, but don't change what you love about us.
Well, the question of don't change is, it's a meaningful demand. It's in ways of correct demand that you're talking about. But change is a given. Mm-hmm. Change is a natural situation that takes place irrespective of whether we like it or not. The problem is not change. The problem is in what direction the change is going.
Well, that's it.
And what the change would mean to our established institution, our way of life, our, legal system, law and order, and so on and so forth. And all of that is premised upon the basis that the new Canadians, the people who come to Canada, and they're coming, nobody's coercing them, nobody's forcing them, nobody forced me to come. I came to Canada because the Canadian government gave me the visa to come, gave me the opportunity to come, to be a Canadian, to participate.
Yeah.
So those of us, and all of us who have come at some point or the other to Canada, including our very first Prime Minister.
Yes, Sir John A. Macdonald from Scotland.
Yeah, the founder of Canada. He came as a child. His family migrated from Scotland.
That's right.
And he ended up being the first Prime Minister of Canada, the founder of Canada.
Yes.
So the question is that those who come, do they have the respect for the country to which they have come?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have the care and a sense of obligation, a sense of duty that, they owe much to the country that they have come to, a country that opened its arms and accepted them to live in accordance with the value of that country? I think that's what the fundamental question is. And I agree. And I've written about this in my book, Delectable Lie. We started going down the wrong track when we said that all cultures are equal, come, and we don't have to ask you to accept our culture because our culture is no different than your culture. Wherever you're coming from, Afghanistan or Zimbabwe, A to Z, come and enjoy being in Canada. We are hyphenated Canadian and live the way you and your ancestors have lived. We have no demand on you, and so on and so forth. The moment that happened, that was the beginning of the unraveling of Canada. It was the beginning of the unraveling of Britain, of Europe. That's what's happening in the United States. But of course, the United States is resisting it because in the United States, the idea of multiculturalism is not part of the constitution of policy of the government.
Yes.
In Canada, multiculturalism has been written into our charter rights. And so we are, in that sense, basically contorted ourselves into something that we are not.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask me, what about the Islamic Party of Ontario? Well, that is only a natural outcome of multiculturalism. There will be an Islamic Party of Ontario, an Islamic Party of Canada. There is a Sikh party. There will be any party.
Any party.
Whoever wants. Because on what basis are you going to say no to them?
Can't and wouldn't. No.
So you see, this is where we are fragmenting our country. We are creating more problems. We are losing the sense of our own tradition and our own values, those traditions and those values that in the first place created Canada, made Canada one of the most envious spots in the world, one of the most desired countries in the sense where people would like to come, live, and spend the rest of their lives. But we are now, by adopting multiculturalism and the idea, which what is Justin Trudeau's expression, Canada has no core identity, and we are a post-national state. What it means is, anything goes. It's the Paul Porter song. You love music, you sing it, so anything goes. When anything goes, then there's nothing of value.
Yeah, and
nothing of value, there's nothing sacred, and there's nothing to defend. And that's where we are headed as a country.
We have to be able to integrate, not to assimilate, but to integrate and to have people coming into the country saying, you know what, I really want to be part of this, and I want to, and people have been. You've heard lots of really great stories from the people who have come from Syria and from all over the Middle East. Great stories, but it's not. It's just a little scary to let so many open borders. It's a little difficult. It's just a little difficult.
This whole issue of integrate and assimilate. These are word games that people play with. A person, say a colored person, black, brown, what have you,
doesn't matter,
man or a woman, marries somebody who is blonde, Nordic, white, completely. The child of that marriage turns out to carry both the characteristics, the genes, the blood
exactly.
You see, so it is not a question of integrate or assimilate. It is synthetic. It becomes one.
That's right.
So to come to Canada, Canada was born and made by people of European descent, primarily English and French. It is part of the Western civilization. It is a child of enlightenment.
Exactly.
It is a home of liberal democracy.
Yes.
So
where everyone has rights.
Anybody who comes to Canada, if they refuse to assimilate into that culture, is then, in a sense, at odds with the fundamental characteristic of Canada. However, the Canadian Prime Minister says we have no core identity.
We've got 30 seconds.
We can't have it both ways. You see, you and I are talking about a Canada that has a core identity. And that core identity
solid one
is liberal democracy. Liberal democracy is a culture. It evolved over
we got to go
500 years.
Exactly. 500 years in the making.
That's right. And Canada is one of the oldest democracies in the world, 150-year-old democracy. The only democracies that are older than Canada is United States, is Netherlands, it is Great Britain, of course.
We got to go. We got to sign up. Salim, thank you. Thank you for helping me out tonight because I had some interesting problems with this. But thank you so much. I'd like to have you come back and discuss more. Thank you so much, Salim Mansur, Professor Mansur, and we'll be hearing a lot about you this year. And we'd love to hear more of you here on A Drink of Water. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Good night.
Good night.
So